Hi, my name is Sarah and welcome back to Freshly Read Books. Alright, so it's time to take a little break from Booker talk. I have been making videos about Booker books for a while now, and while that is still almost the only thing I'm reading currently is the books from the Booker 2020 long list, I wanted to make a video that was a bit different, get more into the Halloween spirit, and talk about some zombie books. So today we'll be talking about 3 books all set in and after a zombie apocalypse, that being World War Z, An Oral History of the Zombie War by Max Brooks, Severance by Ling Ma, and Zone 1 by Colson Whitehead. I actually read all 3 of these books back to back right before the Booker long list was announced, with the intention of making a video similar to this. Makes a lot more sense that I'm making it in October instead of like early September, so I'm kind of glad that I waited this long, not just for that, but also because now that I've sat with these books for a while and it's been a bit since I've read them, I've gotten that distance, I feel like I better know the merits for each one, because at different points in time I would have said that a different one was my favorite of the 3, which is weird. But I think that they all bring something very different, even though they are about similar things. So yeah, let's jump into it. So the first book we have is World War Z by Max Brooks. You've probably heard of this one already. This one was turned into a movie, or rather inspired a movie, with Brad Pitt in it in 2013. So it was pretty popular, and I actually went and saw that movie in theaters, which I don't do a ton of, or didn't pre-COVID, and don't now, obviously. Like, I didn't really do it much then, and I never do it now, so. But I did actually see that one in theaters, and it was a really good movie, and definitely scared me several times. So, if you're looking for a movie like that, I would recommend it. However, the book is very, very different. So if you've watched the movie already and you're thinking, well, there's no point in reading the book now, I've already seen the movie, I would still highly recommend reading the book because it is so incredibly different than the movie. So the book is written in kind of like these interviews that happen a while after the zombie apocalypse has already kind of died down, and the interviewer is going around talking to different people. It's done in a very colloquial way because they are supposed to be vocal conversations. That's where the oral history part comes in the title. But basically, Max Brooks, who is, yes, the author, but also the interviewer in the story, goes around across the United States interviewing people, and it's not just US citizens, it's also people from other countries, but he goes around interviewing them to get their perspective of the zombie war. So sometimes it's people that were dealing with it, like zombies right in front of them, or sometimes it's people that are like high up in the ranks of the military and what their perspective was, where they're like more calling the shots than actually there and fighting zombies. Also, for World War Z, I initially got it as an ebook from the library, and I ended up deciding that I actually wanted the audiobook version of it because it's done by a whole cast of characters. It's done really well, and I very much enjoyed listening to it. So I think that if I were to suggest a way to consume this book, it would be through audio format. Next, I read Severance by Ling Ma. So this one takes place kind of in 2 time periods. One is right before and as the zombie apocalypse is starting, and the other one is quite a ways into the future, where things have kind of calmed down more, or they like understand more about the zombies. And the zombies in this book are very different than anything that I have ever read or watched or played a game about. So I was very curious, and I think that that was the most interesting thing reading the 3 versions of these books, is that the zombies have their own thing in each one, which makes sense, of course, but I've never just like consumed zombie media just back to back to back. So it was neat to see that. Severance follows Candace Chen, who is a daughter of Chinese immigrants who's living in New York, and she's got this office job. She very much sticks to routines, and then of course the zombie apocalypse happens. And it is in the form of like this pandemic which starts in China. And so there's a lot of similarities between what we're dealing with today and the situation going on in this book. And this does kind of play into that political commentary of it, of like this disease came from China and like people are blaming the Chinese for it. And Candace, since she is of course Chinese, although born in America, she does experience a bit of this being in the US. And then another thing that I liked about this book was because it's quite a ways into the future, you do get that kind of feel for how people are coming together afterwards and what the new rules of this new world are. And that's kind of the part of stories like these that I enjoy the most. It's not really like the zombie apocalypse, fighting off zombies, all that, but it's the afterwards, when people are trying to pull together into this new type of civilization and what that looks like. I am fascinated by books that cover this, whether it be because of a zombie apocalypse or something else. Which kind of brings me perfectly into the next one. So this is Zone 1 by Colson Whitehead. This book follows Mark Spitz, but the time we're in here is a year after the zombie apocalypse, and it is set in Manhattan. This one is very, very much dealing with kind of what civilization looks like after a zombie apocalypse. They are working on cleaning up the city of dead bodies or any lingering zombies by going like through building by building and searching them. Zone 1 refers to the area of land where they have already reclaimed it as their own. There as in the living, not the living dead. And also something that is really brought forth in this one is mental health, which I do think is touched on in Severance as well, but it is a much bigger deal in Zone 1. There's even a term for it in the book called post-apocalyptic stress disorder. So it really focuses in on that aspect. Okay, so now for the main meat of it. Which zombie book of these three is right for you? So this totally depends on your reading style, but what I would say is if you're looking for more of a fast-paced and like really in the action, then I would suggest World War Z. Even though it is told from the future, you are getting these action-packed scenes, and the way it's told, since it does sound like somebody is talking to you, it's very colloquial, it moves by so quickly. And if you listen to it, like, it's just a great full experience in general. So maybe pop on that audiobook while you're decorating for Halloween, or maybe you can just wander around your neighborhood looking at other people's Halloween decorations while listening to the audiobook, because maybe, like me, you decided last year that you would be more minimalist and get rid of your Halloween decorations because you only use them once a year anyways, and really, what's the point? It's not like there'll be this huge pandemic and you won't be able to leave your home, so it'd be really nice to have a little change of scenery with some decorations. But, you know, here we are. But no, in all seriousness, World War Z was a really fun listen, and I think it would be good to read as well. It's just that for me, I do like an audiobook from time to time, and especially if it's done with a full cast of characters, then I really can't pass it up. Now, if you want something that is a bit more of a deep dive into characters themselves, maybe you're more of a characters person than a plot person, then I would suggest Zone 1 by Colson Whitehead. This one, you really get to dive into what it is like to be a human that has gone through something so traumatic as a zombie apocalypse. And while this isn't something that we can ever really know for sure, hopefully, because hopefully a zombie apocalypse is not going to happen, it did really ring true, and I felt like Whitehead did a really great job writing the characters in this. Also, his writing style is just fantastic. So if you lean more towards literary fiction and really zombies aren't your thing at all, I still think that you would really enjoy this book. In fact, maybe more than somebody that's just looking for a zombie book, because I think that this is not going to quite scratch that itch. If you're just really wanting that like all-out zombie action, I don't think this one's gonna do it for you. Now, if you want something that's really right in the middle, like maybe you want a little bit more of the actual apocalypse action, but you still want deeper characters that you get to know more, then I would say Severance. Candace is a really fleshed out main character, and having that perspective of being a child of Chinese immigrants in a time where there is a pandemic that originated in China is really a fascinating way to tell the story. Plus, since you get those flashbacks, you do get to see her life slowly change, and you get to see it from the very beginning, where it's kind of this pandemic that you hear about, and then all of a sudden it's affecting your day-to-day life, but it still does not quite get into the real big action scenes. So once again, if you're looking for that, then World War Z out of these three has the most of it. Now, as far as the scariest zombies, that award would have to go to World War Z for me. They were very frightening, and they seemed to be able to kind of work together a little bit, which I think brought a new element to it. But overall, I would probably say that those zombies are the most like zombies from other stories, or like the traditional zombie. That's not to say that there aren't any scary zombie encounters in Zone 1 and in Severance, because there are, but just not to the extent that there is in World War Z. All right, that's gonna do it for this video. I hope that you got something out of it. Maybe you're gonna read a zombie book now. But if you've read any of the books that I mentioned in this video, I'd love to know what you thought of them. And if you haven't, which one do you think sounds the most right for you? Also, I'm just curious to know, what part of the zombie book do you like the most? Is it just like learning about the zombies and how they are different than zombies from other books? Is it the civilization aspect? Is it how one person goes through it and goes through that trauma, or is it just like all the action and gore? All right, anyways, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider subscribing, liking, whatever, and then I will see you in the next one. Bye.